Good morning. This is Talking Devils. I'm Wayne Barton, joined by Manchester United legend Paul Parker. Paul, been a lovely week in England. Loads of sun everywhere. How have you enjoyed it?
Well, I would say there was some, but didn't really. We was in and out a bit yesterday, but I've kind of been socialising with friends and having to watch West Ham v Nottingham Forest yesterday. I suppose that's the most painful bit of the weekend, really.
90-minute VAR check.
Oh
It's not been a good weekend for VAR, has it?
no, the West Ham one that was it. That was really really embarrassing. That was. To be honest, the ref it almost started from there. After that VAR, the referee totally lost his composure. He lost everything. The referee, the game just almost turned into a melee at the end. The referee he wound the fans up both sets, and he just wound the players up because he had no control. He didn't know what he was doing. If you'd put him in the middle of the road and asked him to direct traffic, Christ, it would have been an absolute nightmare.
I remember Jeff Winter telling me about. Remember the game when the famous Beckham boot game, the
Mm.
FA Cup game when United played Arsenal, and it started like really, really badly. And I think like he had to call Keane and Vieira together after about 15 minutes. 15 minutes and tell them to calm down. Because like he said, if you carry on like this, there'll be no players left on the pitch. Ferguson afterwards said to him, said after like the referee lost control of it. Winter said, "I never had control of it," um, which tells you a lot about those teams back in those days. But it does seem a bit of a theme. What did you make the big one of? We'll talk about United. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do that. But the big theme of the weekend was the FA Cup weekend. The FA Cup with Dean Anderson, who played very well, but perhaps shouldn't have been on the pitch to do that. I mean, I can take a rivalry aside and think like that's a ridiculous decision, but you've got VAR that's there to take care of that. I mean, how did they not? How?
Was it? I mean, someone was talking yesterday about it, and they were talking about because he was going away from goal, and I think to myself, well, even if he is going away from goal, we've seen players are not, they don't run in straight lines. They can bend their bodies, and when you're talking about a person who scores a lot of goals, all different kinds of goals, and it was just a shocking, he it was a shocking decision. It was that bad, and I mean, as and I think everyone is so pleased that Palace won it, but it's that one little thing that's always going to be there now, which they don't really deserve, really, because
Mm.
of the fact that the people just wasn't doing their jobs. Would it have made a difference in the game? Well, it could have made a big difference if that had been a sending off to Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
So,
Sanderson was really good in the
sorry,
game. Sanderson was really good in the
really,
game as well. It wasn't like a case like you got a dodgy keeper in there. He basically, I think, not the game of his life, but pretty. You'll remember it as probably the best game of his career for sure. What did you? I actually felt like, yeah, all right, he should have gone, but I felt like there was a bit of compensation with the penalty. I felt like there was a bit of a soft pen that they.
it was like again, it's another one. So I saw it and I thought, oh, and then when I saw the replay, I said, oh, he's touched the ball. It's
Yeah,
not a penalty. He touched the ball, and again, they take ages, and then they make the decision that it's a penalty. And it's absolutely again, who are these people who sit there and don't they see anything? And again, I'm saying this again. I must have said it 10 times over the weekend. It actually now really needs an ex-footballer in now.
yeah.
Doesn't matter. Needs someone in there just to help them understand and let them understand what that means. That touch of the ball. He didn't go through the player to make the touch. He got a clean touch of the ball,
Yeah.
and Bernardo Silva exaggerated.
Mm.
It's as simple as that. And we're not seeing enough now. He exaggerates, so that should be a yellow card
Yeah.
without doubt. And they're not doing that enough now. All that's going on, they are not doing it. There was an incident happen over the weekend where a player's dived for a pen. I think I'll tell you what was it. Ahmad. Ahmad
Yeah.
got booked.
I was going to talk
Ahmad
about
got booked. Yeah, sorry, I brought it forward one. Ahmad got booked, but just earlier in that, we actually saw a player dive,
the
and the
Chelsea lad.
referee just
Young
yeah,
lad, yeah. Yeah.
and he doesn't he doesn't get booked. He doesn't get anything where he's tried to earn a penalty. You could see a million miles what he tried to do, and everyone's all smiling. Oh well, he tried. I think even the commentary was kind of, oh well, You think yourself, no, it's not. Oh well, you're talking about, about people, job, what the difference it could make, and the lad should have been penalty as a young boy. Should have. Oh, you don't do that.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's interesting because, well, first of all, I'll second you on that. The congratulations to Palace because earlier in the season, Newcastle win a trophy, and you think the fans have been there for a long time. You think fair enough, it's a big thing, but it sticks in the throat a little bit with what Newcastle have done over the last sort of 4 or 5 years. Not in terms of the football's fine, but the regime that's taken over, it's difficult to celebrate them winning a trophy. Different for Palace. I actually I was talking to my wife about it, and I was saying when we played them in '90, they were 7 minutes away from winning the cup. So when it went fewer than that, I said, like, you're actually witnessing now, like 6 minutes, 5 minutes. These are the biggest moments in Crystal Palace's history. And then, everyone's seen the pictures. There was a great story about a lad and his dad and his lads who were celebrating when Dean Ambrose, I think it was, scored at Old Trafford in 2011, and they made that into a tifo. But the dad has passed away, but the lads were there at the final yesterday, and it's such an iconic image, really. And I think, like, they knocked us out of the League Cup then in like 2011, and for the sake of a great story and a really romantic story, it's worth United taking the defeat. I'll take the defeat if it ends up with something romantic like that, because I mean, I've got Palace fans on the in-laws side, and yeah, I'm made up for them. Great result, and a great win for them. But yeah, United. So I mean, you can't really say it sort of hung on those refereeing decisions, but they were there nonetheless. But the thing I wanted to say about this is it's been all season that VAR's been there, obviously for a few years now, but some of the decisions are getting worse. So it's obviously the humans, it's not the technology. I go back to West Ham earlier in the season, where Ten Hag sacked after a diabolical penalty decision at the end. Ten Hag was getting sacked anyway, but that expedited it because it was like absolute monstrosity of an end of a football match. It was a catastrophe, and it was the kind of catastrophe you say no manager comes back from that, and he got sacked. Moments into that, where the before they blew for the VAR check, obviously it was going to get checked, but when they blew for the penalty immediately, when the Chelsea lad goes down, my immediate reaction is, Anana, what the hell are you doing? And let's say that the penalty is given, because it could easily have done. There's no guarantee that it goes to VAR and he doesn't overrule it or anything like that. So it could have been given, and then you're then again calling it an honor error, aren't you? Really, and I think that's the thing that we're getting with this now. It's influence, and I said it earlier in the season with Ten Hag. All right, Onana should be sold in the summer anyway, but it adds an element of a catalogue of errors what don't need to be there, because they're not errors, they're errors made by other people, and I think that needs to be sorted out quickly.
Yeah, it does. There's got to be big discussions going on about it and the way it's being used, and the whole thing. For me, there's things I'd love to say, but I couldn't. But I'm not understanding what's going on. There's no great consistency. I don't know. I think sometimes, for me, the way things are done, I think there's just becoming bitter old men, bitter men. I'm going to say, who are running it, who are affecting people's livelihoods, i.e., managers, on some of their decisions. There's no consistency in what they do. Why is everything taking so long? When you think, well, hold a minute, you see it there, and you see one replay, and you go, oh yeah, bang, and it's done. It's easy. There is ones that take a bit of time, but I don't know what goes on, what they're saying to each other, because I don't believe in, after every serious event, there's something that goes on. All of a sudden, they want to put out what was being said online and what they were talking through to each other. I don't trust them. I don't really ever believe in them, because I think to myself, well, if you're going to be like that, why can't people initially listen to it live and what's going on? Someone independent who's there live and what's going on, who can ask, So there's stuff in there which I believe we don't know about what's going on. Somebody who might have just had a bad experience with a certain player, a certain manager.
Yeah.
Something comes along, you just suddenly, as life is, when we got the hump with someone, have that. Go on.
Yeah.
There you are. That's for what you've done to me last week or the week before or something like that. It's human nature to bear a grudge, and that's why I think maybe we should look at bringing referees from overseas now. Something like that. It's just those people going around referee. You're either a referee or you look after VAR. You don't do both.
Yeah. There's
So,
I remember they talked about that in the late 90s that they were, when there was a foreign invasion of players coming over, they said, what about referees as well? By the way, anyone listening and watching this live, I've put United v Athletic Club in the title. That'll be fixed for the audio podcast, so you'll be listening back to this saying, "What the hell am I going on about?" We're obviously playing Spurs. It's at Athletic Club. I just played them that often recently that I've just made the brain fart there. Talk about the game overall. Is there anything to draw from? I mean, the thing that there's always something that winds you up with United. First of all, I'm not talking about you personally. I'm talking about in general. Højlund, another waste of a position up front, but you can't help but think that there's no way he's not going to play on Wednesday night. But the other thing that was equally frustrating is you've got fullback not much taller than you, Paul. And you could rise like a salmon, but you've got 6 foot centre half stood around him. In fact, stood around him being the operative word because they're not marking him, they're not challenging him for the header, and he scores the header, and United lose very, very simply. Very simply executed goal. We all know Reece James can cross a ball, so he's got space to do it. Puts it in the danger area. Nobody's marking that danger area. One of the smallest men on the pitch scores an header, which just plants it in. It's just a schoolboy goal to concede. And I mean, United had done quite well, I thought. Didn't play terribly in the game, but concede to a goal like that, which sort of sums up United this season. They had no confidence to come back from it. Is there anything that you can take from that game that you think that's something to build upon? Or is it just like a case of, like it's felt like for 4 months, is just get this game out of the way, get this season out of the way?
I think you said it there at the end. That's exactly what it is, to be perfectly honest. I didn't see them. I didn't actually believe in them winning. I should have been at the game. I was invited to the game, and I thought I said I end up pulling out in the end because I'd rather sit at home and I can walk away from it. To be perfectly honest, I go there and where it is and what I know what would happen. Everyone would be sitting watching me and my reactions to things. The problem is I'm not a card player. It comes out, me facially, and it would have, I would have been disappointed in what I'm seeing. But I knew what to expect, and you practically got it. You just got to really, again, another average performance, and then you see the goal, and you turn around and say you score a goal like that, and it's a great goal, great movement. But as we see, it's a static defence.
Yeah.
And I say that I think Victor Link has done great whenever he's come in. But I still say that when you talk about United and you talk about defensively, they've only got one defender who I've seen who's played regularly in this season who actually is a defender and senses danger, and that's De Ligt.
Yeah.
He's the only one who senses danger. He's just an out and out. He's just a defender. He isn't going to be clever on the ball or do anything. He's like a lesser version of a Yap Stam. The way he is, in that way. He's far better player and everything about him. But he sensed danger and he's aggressive and he just loves to defend. He isn't going to start thinking he's playing from the back and trying to chip lovely balls. He'll keep it simple. And I love that.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why that goal scored. Cucurella has been doing that all season. All season he's been doing that, sneaking into the box. And I've always said it. It's not about how big you are. It's just about how clever you are. And you don't have to be 6'2", 6'3" to win balls in the box. You just have to be on the move and get a run. And you have a run on anybody. It doesn't matter how tall they are. They cannot jump. They cannot jump because you're on the move and you've got the run. And that's the reason why I won so many balls in the air when I played through them away because I knew I was never going to win many off the spot. So I knew that whatever I had to do, I had to be clever enough to be on my toes and virtually read things early to anticipate where the ball was going to be or when that ball was going to be knocked in. And Cucurella's been doing it so many times, just getting in that box at the end of things, nearly getting there. But it seemed like they wasn't aware of it. This little fella with a massive hair like a cocker spaniel gets into the box and outmaneuvers. It was just outmaneuvers them, outthinks them. Really, just a static defence. You think the game's over. The game was safe, a 0-0 draw. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me is that like it is something that they're known for doing, and like this is just United all over. Like I feel like they've played to their own weaknesses and the opposition's strengths all season. And if I do have a concern over the manager, it's that's the penny's never dropped with that. It's never felt like it's dropped. Do you put that on the players, or do you think that the manager has a responsibility there? So we've seen it from these players countless times. I mean, that defense was Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw. So they've been together for 5 years. They've known each other for at least. I mean, they've been together as a three for 5 years, and we've been saying Lindelof and Maguire no for at least three. So, and that's not. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying that's a matter of fact. That's what we've been saying. But you would have thought at some point, come on, lads, sense danger. That's literally what you're there to do.
Yeah, and it's funny you just mentioned that how long those three players have been there. Normally, if you talk about players saying that defence or you're talking about midfield or forwards, they've played together. Those players have been together 5, 6 years, and they all know each other so well. You would expect, that something positive. They know each other well on and off the pitch,
Yeah.
but it was like again, it was just like strangers. There's no cohesion. There's nothing there. There is nothing there, and how the club can still think it can go forward when you have got a Lindelof there, you still got a Maguire there, you got a Luke Shaw who's missed 18 months of football in theory, and all of a sudden he's playing again, and I'm looking at it, and sometimes how long is this going to keep going? How long is the club going to allow this to happen? These players still being there, you can't go forward as a club with those players there. It's absolutely, in my opinion, impossible, Wayne. You go into the midfield and you could pick players out there. The midfield's a little bit more fresher than what those players are at the back. But they can't go forward that. You can't suddenly look as he's been doing. He's trying to build this three at the back system and he's playing Harry Maguire there. I don't understand it. I don't care that he's got to nick a few goals at the end. I mean, I'm seeing people wearing the bucket hats and they've got a picture of Harry Maguire in the front. I think to myself, what's that about?
Yeah.
What is that about? A couple of months back, you wanted him to shift on, but because he nicks a couple of goals, keeps United in a European competition, and I don't understand it. It's still a backward step that way. The whole thing just needs revitalising. New faces, start again. And I think everyone would go, yep, okay, we can do it. But all we're seeing all the time is the same players coming in under a different manager and expecting things to have changed and things to get better. It's absolutely impossible. It can't work because of what's happening off the pitch, what's being said around the dressing room, what the way they're conducting themselves have been there for ages and just they're rooted in there. Newer players have come in, majority of them haven't adapted, haven't sprung out. They're not stepping on, and it's disappointing. Really, really disappointing this season. And 25th of May, final league game of the season. You bring it on because it's last, and many of the fans can just sit back and they don't need to be told by anyone how bad it is. All they will know is we've got weekend spare now. We've got no football that's going to ruin the weekend. Please, and they're going to be going, please, let's have sunny weekends for us to be out there. That's what they want. No football to ruin anything.
No, yeah, it has definitely. It's felt like enough this season. So another thing from the Chelsea game was Aidan Evan coming in, which was good, but he was immediately involved in some tackle. Chelsea started getting a bit like natty towards the end. He was like thinking, God, just like try and get off this pitch with it. Like I think even in the first 20 minutes, there was like 3 or 4 players going down. And Bruno rolls around all the time anyway, so you're never quite sure. He's got much better at it lately, but he went down, and you're thinking, oh God, this is the last thing we need when we picked a strong side. But Aidan Evan was the one that you might have thought if he'd had stayed in after Leicester instead of being injured, then he would have a very good shout for playing on Wednesday night. And as it is, it'll be him or Shaw, and Shaw will probably get the green light over that. And it just feels like I'm with you. You know what I mean? It feels like you're in the past a little bit. And we got Shaw will do the role capably. I'm not saying that he doesn't have like a massive kind of collapse. Like Lindelof and Maguire can have a 0 out of 10 game. Shaw doesn't tend to have that, but when he struggles, he does struggle. And you just think like, oh, would we have been better even putting a rookie in Heaven because there's a bit of momentum behind him? Now he doesn't have that, unfortunately, because of the injury, and it has left us in this difficult situation with that. I mean, with that in mind, I mean, what do you make of Heaven the other night? I mean, he's someone we've talked about. I wouldn't have thought that you're going to be saying he's definitely going to be in your mind to start the final, but he did all right. I mean, he wasn't quite the bombastic player that we saw in those earlier games, but that's because he's feeling his way back, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's definitely be that way, and it's just a shame really how it worked out, because the way he was going, I was feeling that he was gonna maybe get in, to be around it. He was always gonna get himself in an area somewhere in that back three, just by the way he is, and so the way things have worked out. But I think he will play Luke Shaw, and it's just incredible, Luke Shaw, isn't it? Really, just come back after being so long out, and he's got every chance to kind of step in and get a Europa League, winners medal.
Oh,
but then he tried to do that of England, didn't he, as well, to nick the Euros one as well. So it's just the way things work out, to be perfectly honest. And I'm just wondering how many people are looking forward to it, or I don't know how do you describe how a fan would feel in this instant way? Maybe you could tell me, with this game coming up, and you think to yourself, right, you desperate to get there, desperate to play it, and then what happens at the end when if United win? How do you celebrate? How do you celebrate that?
I think maybe for the first time ever, you feel more relieved than anything, rather than wanting to celebrate. So that's incredibly nervous. There is that. I feel like, in a way, Amrin was talking last week, and I wasn't a fan of what he said. He said, doesn't matter if we win or lose. I get what he was saying. He was saying the bigger picture is that one game isn't going to fix the problems that we've got. The problems are more severe than that. But the acceleration of fixing those problems, and the fact that it impacts all areas of the club, it will impact all the humans who work at the club if we don't win, because we might have to make more cuts and lose more people, when I don't think that they can afford to do that anyway, and it's going to affect who they look for in the summer, all those kind of things. It makes you not look at the game itself. Do you know what I mean? It's such a weird thing that you're not looking at and there's that element of Spurs are missing some of their attackers, United are missing some of their defence in a certain way. And I mentioned this the other day in a tweet, but I don't think I articulated it right. In a certain way, I feel like United need the money and Spurs need the trophy. Don't get me wrong, I think Amorim needs the trophy now, because I think that there's the beginning of discontent is starting to sort of come on him, because there hasn't been that much progress under him. And it is a weird thing, because I feel like for the first time, United in a European final, I'm not thinking of them like oh, well, this is a stepping stone to where we get to where we want to go to, because I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago when if we qualify for the Champions League, we're not qualifying for the Champions League to be competitive in the Champions League. That's a nonsense. I'm not we finished 16th or 17th in the league here. Like, let's be serious about this. We're not playing in the Champions League to win it next season. So what are we qualifying for? We're qualifying for that money, and how it's going to help us. And I hate feeling like that, because I remember when we played the last Europa League under Ole, it was about winning it, right? Because no matter what anyone says, everyone has always said, "Oh, it's been this decline since 2013." No, it declined, and then it went up a little bit under Ole. There's something coming back, and he needed that win in the Europa League final. And in the semi, we'd lost the semi as well. So we'd lost the semi, and he needed a win. He needed a trophy win. It just eluded him. He got to a final as well, didn't he? Did he get to a domestic cup final, an FA Cup final?
Yeah, I think he did.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did. Anyway, but this was the one, and they were looking at this. No, he didn't. It was Jose who got to the Chelsea one, and then he was sacked soon after that. I felt like he did. I felt like he got to an FA Cup final. But maybe someone in the comments can point me. My memory's just not working for me this morning. But anyway, the Europa League final was all about Ollie winning it, and I can remember something to do with the selection. Should he pick Pogba or not? Should he pick McTominay or not? Or Fred? There was all that thing about the midfield selection, and he went down to penalties. And then at the end of the day, I remember us talking about it afterwards. This definition of his future, this perception of him, is going to be shaped by De Gea missing a penalty kick. And it was, and he was gone soon after that. It just, we signed Ronaldo, everything happened. But then, so what I'm saying is we were on a slight incline. We were going up. We were runners up in the league. We were improving. And now there's been this massive collapse again. So for me, Paul, asking how I'm feeling, I feel like I'm not looking at the game. I'm not looking at the game and saying, this is a great game of football, United v Spurs in the European final. I'm looking at the injuries. I'm looking at one team who desperately needs a trophy in Spurs, one team who needs the win for a multitude of different reasons. I know, like I said earlier, Amrim needs the trophy as well, but it's such a strange feeling for United going to a European final, because this should still be one of the greatest nights in the club's history. And in a way, it will be, because they're still playing in the European final, and it is a mark of achievement. How do you feel about it as a player? Because, I mean, there's been all that discourse, hasn't there, with Keane and Neville, and everyone's saying, what's a successful season? We know it's not a successful season. Winning this cup isn't going to make it a successful season. It will paper over the cracks. But how do you feel about it looking like, especially in the light of what Keane and Neville have said over the last couple of weeks?
Well, I'm trying to think of it as a player when you know how awful it was. I mean, I'm just trying to think the last time anything was really like this was maybe 90.
Yeah.
With the FA Cup. Something, but then it wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad, and the players celebrated like it. It was a big thing, and obviously things were built from there. It was the first bit of the foundation that went down under Sir Alex, and but I'm thinking about it now because things are bigger now. I mean, everything media-wise is massive compared to 1990, and I'm just wondering how, if they were to win, I'm wondering how the players are going to celebrate. And I think the thing that they will bounce off is the fans' reaction of it if they were to win it. They're the fans ones who will set the precedence on how the players respond to it.
Yeah.
That's how I'm looking at it, because I'd find it really weird, because football is, and you learn as you go on, understand that it's the league position that's important. The league position is so important, so important. If you're a club like Manchester United, so important. You can only fall away to a certain level. Anything after that, and you're going to be hit. You're being hit with everything, verbally, on paper. You're being hit.
Yeah.
So, are they going to jump around, like it's the greatest thing in the world, and hope in the back of their mind going, oh, they've forgotten about what's happened the rest of the season? I don't think no one will forget that. And if they were to win it, everyone media-wise will be reminding those players about what the season's been about. That winning that doesn't mean anything. But in years to come, as years go by, it's going to be Manchester United, in theory, win the Europa League, and the league season won't be mentioned with it, because the two don't go together, do they?
I don't know. I just think people do look back at that Ferguson, that was like 1990. They do, because it goes hand in hand, the FA Cup at the league position. If it was Bayern United had lost in the cup in embarrassing fashion, then yeah, there's the argument there. So I don't think that they don't go hand in hand. I think what counts for Amorim is that everyone has been so aware of how significant the issues were that he's been given 6 months of generosity, really. But it won't last because the knives will be out immediately after the summer, for sure. It doesn't even help that we've got another league game afterwards because, like, say we win, if we win, and then like Villa can easily come to Old Trafford and beat us, then that's the final nail in the coffin for the season. And then they'll be saying, United record, by the way, don't know if you know this, Paul. You know I love my stats. Sometimes I don't love them when I find them out. This one, if United lose on Sunday in the league, then their season's as bad as Blackpool's season when they're in the Premier League.
Oh God!
Yeah, don't get to the magic 40 points. Exactly the same record, wins, losses, and points. But talk about you was a lot of ifs there. If United win the Europa League, once upon a time, the boyhood Paul Parker would have loved this. Boyhood Spurs fan. Sorry to bring that up, but like Man United glamorous tie, European final. This would be the game of your well, maybe the game of your nightmares because you've got to pick a winner. Now it's a bit easier. I know that you favour United and you want United to win, but it's really, I feel like it's a game. They've got the mental advantage of having Ange all these wins against United of recently, but you played in the United side. You were in the squad when we were defeated twice by Chelsea and we won them in the cup final convincingly. And then we played Liverpool in 95-96 and we didn't win them in the league. Robbie Fowler kept scoring against us and we managed to keep him quiet and win in the final. First of all, there's that mental battle that the players have got to overcome. But secondly, it feels like it's a battle between, or it's going to be a battle between what's stronger in Spurs' reserve attack and our reserve defence. And I've got to say, I don't fancy our odds in that. I don't know. I'm trying not to be pessimistic. I feel like there's something in me that I want to feel positive because United are in the European final. And I want to believe against what all the rational things are telling me. How do you see it going?
This one is really tough. It's really to work out who's going to win it. It's so difficult. I mean, this game now is it's a Premier League game, and the problem is when it comes to Premier League games, United have been poor, Tottenham have been poor. Tottenham have been maybe the league position suggests slightly better.
Yeah,
but it's not like sometimes wish that we was playing against the Norwegian side in certain ways. For me, there'd be more chance of them winning that game because Tottenham are a little bit more energetic in that way. And as we know with United, they struggle against energetic teams.
Yeah.
Any team that plays with any tempo in that midfield area, the most successful teams are the teams that have got technically good midfield players and players who are athletic in the way they play. And in certain ways, Manchester United have struggled with that this season. That's one area that really does need some work in it to add some energy to it. And you mentioned about the struggling up front, Tottenham, and obviously United defensively. I think you have to look at this game, and I think it is gonna be about the midfield, and it is about scoring that first goal.
Oh yeah,
and it's so important that the score the first goal. Cannot afford to go behind, in my opinion. But there's more players who have played in these kind of games in the United side. I think really, when you look at the players they've got there compared to Tottenham, I just believe there's more chance of United winning this game than Tottenham. If we want to, if you want to bring out what you've said about with Ange, with his little bit, and because of their 3 games, it's easy. You look at that, the momentum's with them on that. I'd always say is that you can't play a team 3 or 4 times in the season and win every single time. Maybe unless you're kind of in the Scottish League, you can maybe do that if you're Rangers or Celtic. But it can't. After United, I think they've lost 7 games this season. Their teams have done a double over them 7 times this season. West Ham were the 7th team to go do the double over him, I think it was. So surely you can't allow Tottenham to go and win 4 games. It just, 2 league and 2. They cannot allow that to happen. So I'm going to go with United to win this game. Even be watching it, but it's going to be one of those games I'm on the edge of the seat, hoping, nervous of the fact of them going behind.
Yeah,
I do worry about what they'll do next.
There's something like that. It's something like United have conceded first on 15 times. So it's more than 15 now. But the last time I looked today, I'm sure it was 15 times. And the recovery rate is not good. It was under Ollie. I think it even was to an extent under Ten Hag. They had a few comebacks, but it's shocking at the moment. It's absolutely horrendous and not helped by the lack of firepower up front. What do you make? I'll talk about some of the other selections in a moment, but a lot is being made of Højlund and the lack of presence that he has there. And we've talked about him in the past and said there's a player in there and it's a confidence issue. And now it's looking more and more like it's just a player out of his depth issue, which is it happens to bigger players, better players than Højlund, but it feels like that's what we're watching at the moment. And it feels, do you put him in? Do you feel like he's? I can't see how he's not going to play him, but I just don't see how it goes well either. Do you know what I mean? I feel like all of it's too predictable. Even if it didn't go the way that we're thinking, let's say he scores 2 goals, I don't see it as a necessary rebirth of his United career. I just don't know. You know what I mean? It's such a weird one to call, but I can't see how he's not going to play him.
I think if you looked at it, if Højlund was your child and your child was struggling at something, I think the way that Højlund's played all these games, I think you call that a form of, like, in my opinion, child abuse. In the sense of him playing him every time he goes. And how is it affecting Højlund in his head by going out there? Is he? I think 99. I believe 99% of us as players, when you're there, you're not going to go to the manager and say, "I don't think you should play me. I'm not right. I don't think you could." They might do in today's world because it's treated differently. But when I was playing, if I'd have gone and done that to the manager, I believe that the manager would have looked at me and he was never going to believe in me again. He would have seen me as a weak link if I was going to go there and say, "Sorry, I can't play. My confidence is low." And I don't think a manager wants to hear that from a player. But it's different now. Managers will make you think the same because they want to win games, but they know they can't go at it as maybe what their manager would have done with them if they'd have done that. But I just believe that he shouldn't. I think it's cruel to play him sometimes when you're watching, because it's not as if he's missing a load of chances and you think yourself, he can just get the one in and get his confidence. He's not even getting anywhere near even to have a shot at goal. No. When he makes a run somewhere and you give it into him, he gets pushed off too easy, gets brushed aside, his touch lets him down. Everything seems to, it's virtually gone to the point that I think his nickname's going to be Jigsaw, isn't it? That's what it's going to be, because he falls apart in the box. It's just absolutely just.
Yeah.
It's just not. There's not any part of his game at the moment where you can say that's good. He's doing that right. He's bringing people into the game. The players don't even utilise him now. They don't even. No. You look at him for counters and virtue. Yeah. He's like a decoy.
Yeah.
And you can just see it. The players are going no, and they seem like they'd rather go the long way round and overpass rather than maybe look. Can we go through that hole there for him to get onto it and build from there? But they don't want to do it. And you see he starts throwing his arms, and then he doesn't make a second run because he's disappointed he hasn't been given it on the first run. He just doesn't, And I think the best way, when I look at him, and I always mention every time we talk about forwards, I always bring up one forward, maybe the best centre forward I ever played with in all round everything. Have they ever sat him down and just watched Sparky? Sparky would make incredible. He would just run. He would make a run, an angled run somewhere, and he'll take someone away, and then he would And then if the ball weren't going to come to him, and he mostly wasn't expecting it, then he'd make a second run.
Yeah.
And if you didn't give the ball to him, and he believed it, and he should have got the ball, then he would let you know. But if you was to give it to someone else and bang, but that's what it's about. You have to be unselfish, and I think he's running, and every time he makes a run, he's not running to help the team. So I think he's running because he just wants the ball. So hopefully he can go and score. He's just got it. He's just mixed up, and in a way you'd have thought there was something the manager could do over the last few months and say to himself, is there something I can do regarding a false nine? Someone just to take him out, and maybe just bring him on as a sub if something's needed. But they say you have to be cruel to be kind, and I don't think it really in this way. I don't think it's right because there's no kindness there at all in what I'm seeing. If he was to go and score in the final, it'd be the happiest day of the boy's life, without a shadow of a doubt. But I can't see him going. I can't see him being a Manchester United player. I really can't.
The last 2 weeks, obviously, he's played through the middle, trying to get his confidence up to get a goal. I think it might have. This is with hindsight. It might have been better playing Obe through those and to keep him fresh completely, because then you wouldn't have had the sort of declining confidence. It was already on the floor, but it can't be any higher than that going into this game. We said there, it was the last FA Cup final. We played McTominay and Fernandes as the front two, right? FA Cup final against City. That's the players that we chose as the front two, and it was Amrabat and Manu who played deeper as the two there. Manu's played at false nine. He scored against Leon, but that was a bit frantic. So you can't really say that. He played in the next game against Wolves and didn't really do much. I think the team played all right for the first 10 minutes, but did its usual sort of collapsing and then conceded late on. So I don't think there's any strong evidence there. Although don't get me wrong, I think I would still probably choose Manu in front of Højlund. The other option would be Garnacho through the middle, the 9 rather than a 10. Either of those appeal to you, Paul?
No, not at all. Not a Garnacho through there or anything. No.
Okay.
Not at all. To be fair to him, he's turned up to work and he's looked in his tool bag, and there isn't a lot there. A lot of good tools he's got to use, to be perfectly honest. If you look at it, I just think in certain ways, I think he's been let down. He's been let down, and now I want to see these people who are earning good money. They've been given themselves, got great cover names as director of football and director of football's assistant, and all. Go out there and give him what he wants. Deliver him players who fit the system he wants to play. They employed him knowing that he was going to play that system. They know, and they employed him knowing that he doesn't matter whatever happens, he was never going to change it. So you knew all that. So give him what he wants to play. You forced him to come early. Give him what he wants, and then you can criticise him after. But they have to be his players. That's what he could understand, and he might need next season to build. But people might start seeing it, and the club are not going to lose this many games again in the season. This just won't. It just can't happen again. It's impossible for this to happen again. To Manchester United to lose this many games in the season. If it was, then football is really evolving in the wrong direction. If that's to happen, with a great club like Manchester United having 2 seasons like this, that tells you there's football is shifting in the wrong direction. There's something wrong with football. Why they're not getting the decent players when I'm looking at the likes of Bournemouth, who were bought for 177 million by an American. They go and straight away get a 50 million return on their investment by selling their centre half to Real Madrid. How do Bournemouth, how do Brighton, how do even Newcastle, how do Brentford, how do those clubs get those players who play with that? Don't have to ask them to run. How do they find them? But Manchester United don't.
Yeah,
that's the problem. I just don't understand it. When you got the name of Manchester United, you can anybody, but you don't get those kind of players who want to work hard and run. and play knowing that the fact of they've got to do themselves justice. They can't let their teammates down. Why don't they get them? We talk about these when we look at these, you talk about those clubs I mentioned, and they talk about every top club coming to take them. And you think, great for that club. Then you say to yourself, these clubs are laughing because they're getting them for 2 bob, and they know that a Manchester United are going to be mentioned, and Liverpool, and all these clubs are going to be, and they're going to come along and just grab them because they're doing well there, and just take them and use them as pawns in their little game over here. So little
Yeah,
clubs are laughing. They're actually getting the better players than what the big boys are getting in certain ways.
yeah,
It's just I'm just not getting what's going on. There's someone said something to me yesterday, and I had to agree with him what he's saying. I can't say what it was, but it's what football's becoming now. It's terrible what I'm seeing now.
yeah. Well, yeah, there's no doubt. United have been missing out for a while, and the scouting issue is there. You may just before we close, I just want to talk about the final squad options. The biggest one is going to be midfield for United, like you said there. That's where you feel the game's going to be won and lost. Now Fernandez has dropped in there deeper to sort of dictate the pace of games when United have been struggling. And Mainu was the man of the match in that position in the FA Cup final. I don't think either of them will play in the centre of midfield this time round. I think Bruno will drop back into there. I've got no doubt because I don't think it's going to be straightforward. It looks like it's going to be Ugarte and Casemiro. Would that be the two that you would pick?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think Casemiro in these kinds of occasions, when it's a game that matters, a big game as such for United, Casemiro is the first player you want. He's the one
Yeah,
that he can. You'll find him. You'll find he gets in between when he gets the ball. He sees things early, or he puts it where people should be. He's that one player. He's more reliable in a bigger game than Bruno. To be
yeah,
perfectly honest, you will get a consistent performance from him. While Bruno would just run around, lose his head, and then all of a sudden he'll just hit something, or he'll just put a pass in and bang, and everything. The story is about him. Casemiro, no, the better story is Bruno, not you, not you. So that's the way it will, or it can work. It can work out, but you have to have Casemiro in there. I like Ugarte. Everyone seems to want to. Some of the pundits seem to want to dig him and Casemiro, which I don't under. Is it bitterness with some of them? Why they keep doing it? But I look at Ugarte and what he does in there, and when he gets on that ball, he wins it back. He very rarely gets dispossessed because the way he puts his body into, people can't get near him or the ball.
awkward. Yeah, like
Yeah, he's
it's
very he just wiggles, and he just seems like he dislocates his shoulders and his elbows and just flits around people. I don't know why I'm moving around like that as well, though. Don't know why I'm doing that. But yes, those two have to start just for their experience and they're just what at the moment of the present squad, they're big game players. It's as
yeah.
simple as that. I know every game should be a big game, but this game matters, and that you definitely needed in that midfield.
So, and the final one would be what you do with that right hand side. Stogo will play on the left hand side, and the defense is basically a case of who's fit. But really, the key is going to be whether Mazraoui plays the right wing back and Ahmad plays right wing attack, or whether plays like Mount in that position and plays Ahmad at the right wing back. Now, I seem to remember that Ahmad played in the forward position when we played at Spurs, and he did quite well. He scored two against them in the League Cup. He did quite well in the League Cup in that forward position. It feels like with it being a final, it depends on the bodies that we've got in defence. Do you think that's the gamble, isn't it? He goes Ahmad at right wing back or right wing attack. Not a gamble, but that's the selection dilemma that he's got.
Well, I think Ahmad's best games for United has been when he's played at right wing back
Yeah,
because I think it makes it easier for him to get on the ball in that position. In that sense, being that little bit further forward, given how the team is, he doesn't get consistently into the game. And when you look at Spurs on that side as well, I would say that position works. It does work on that side. The boss used to be very superstitious about things before, and certain players would play him in certain games because he'd think about previous games and when they'd done well. And I just think about Ahmed every time when he plays in that right wing back, you get the best out of him. He seems to enjoy coming onto the games, seeing it in front of him and working from there. He loves to drop deeper to get on the ball so he can get one against ones. And there's more chance of him getting one against ones in that position. And the good thing about him in that position, he's willing to go the other way as well. You don't have to shout and scream or maybe have your fingers crossed about him tracking his man. He just does it. He sees it and he just does it. You haven't got to worry about him at all.
But maybe where you're saying put him at the right wing back is because Udogie is probably quicker than anyone that we've got in that area. So you probably want someone else following him and leave Ahmad to do what he can do. Van der Ven will be playing, so Ahmad will be floating in that space basically. If he can move out of that space, which is I think is where he caused the damage in the League Cup game. But you basically want a workhorse with. This is where Park would be great. You just stick Park on Udogie and just say like let him run because he's got the space to sort of exploit the gap. I mean, I wouldn't say like he's the playmaker that we did the man marking with Park. Even Chucky did it in the 91 final against Ronald Koeman. But you want to be employing people. Do United have the workhorses in the team? That's the thing. Do they have one who's going to sacrifice their position rather than Højlund being a sacrifice of a position for a different case? You've got to have someone who's willing to sort of stay with the man all the time. Obviously, that's not going to be Garnacho. It's going to have to be someone like a Mount or someone like that, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing when you talk about someone who's a workhorse and someone who can attach themselves and be disciplined. But there's more chance of Mount than the Garnacho. Garnacho will give you a little bit, and after a while, he's going to want to go and do his own thing. We could talk about the goal at the weekend, on Friday, how easy Reece James got away from him.
Yeah,
and his reaction to after when Reece James has gone away from him was to jog and watch. Didn't follow, didn't go with it. You know, it's made Reece James look even better than what he done, but it could have been made more harder just to keep his head down, so keep him occupied, so he couldn't put himself in that position to stand the ball up like that. You know, would have hurried him into more of a more rash cross. Those little bits there, and it's those moments that cost you, as we saw. So you need players that you can believe can do a job. If their game ain't going right, you know that they can work the other side and stop someone else having a good game.
Yeah. If you want a bad omen, then Dominic Solanke is the one with the record against United. And it's a really good record against us, especially with the defence that we're going to have out. So it depends on whether or not they can create the chances to get to him. I just think that they've got a better chance of doing that with the defence that we've got out. And yeah, I don't know. There's so much riding on the game, and it's just still one of those that even after an hour sat talking with a decorated winner of trophies, I'm still no closer to feeling any confident about it, unfortunately. But it's going to be an incredible game of football. It will be, I mean, it should be entertaining. They usually are between the sides at least. They're going to play the way that they're going to play. And it's going to be one of those incredible occasions, really. We'll see what happens with United. Hopefully a 2-0 win without much drama, but I've got a feeling there'll be drama. There'll be something that happens.
Always drama.
Anyway, that's it for this week, guys. We'll be back next week to talk about the final and the final game of the season, which will be Villa. Typical United will win on Wednesday night and then get battered by Villa on Sunday afternoon, and then be left feeling that we've left the season on a downcast note. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's just an unpredictable week. We'll be back to talk about what that means for United next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, guys. And stay safe and stay well.